Hello, brothers and sisters of the building trades. My name is Danny Caliendo, and I'm the founder of Labor Combat Organizing College. I want to take a few moments of your time to have an informal discussion with you, me, and the iPhone. We'll save the slick discussions for another time, if ever. Labor Combat gets its roots from a book that I've been writing since 2007. The numbers developed, the research developed, and understanding why the building trades, and only the building trades, have lost their market share continuously since 1973 to now is the subject matter of that book. It is also where labor combat, tech combat, and combat construction come from. After a couple of years of research, it became clear that there was some other factors out there that weren't being discussed or brought into play. So that is where labor combat comes from. Before we get into some of those discussions, couple terms. One is net. Net is the bottom line. It is very simply, are you winning or losing? There's always other reasons, factors out there, like right to work and the economy, that mitigate or go against you when you're trying to work on developing market share. However, there's been some really good periods of the economy and some pretty neutral periods. And the term net from 73 to now still bears. We are on the wrong side of that equation for a long time. Second one is strategy. The word strategy in its proper form and proper strategy formation taught at every business school in the U.S. is where are you at now, where do you want to be, and the $64,000 question is how the hell are we going to get there. Strategy and tools are not one and the same. They are used, unfortunately, by the building trades and others interchangeably, and they are not. Strategy would be very much the playbook of a football team, and the tools would be the individual plays within that playbook. We have been using those terms too interchangeably. Strategy is your goal. So, having said and discussed a couple of those terms, let's look at some of the things that in writing the book and now Labor Combat developed. We started with a fundamental question, and we brought it to a graduate student at Northwestern as a statistical analyst. And we asked the analyst, is there sufficient numbers of people out there? Not are they well trained, qualified, so on and so forth. Is there just enough numbers out there? And he looked at periods, rolling 5-year periods from 73 forward, and he said, you have plenty of people. He said, notwithstanding that you have some people on the bell curve, if you know what that is, that are coasting or not doing the job or not capable of doing the job, he said, you have more than sufficient number of people. He said, the people part of the equation shouldn't be why you're losing market share. So with that in mind, we started to look at strategies, properly termed like we just discussed. And we looked at things like bottom up. And we looked at bottom up in terms of can it get you to your end goal? And it harkens back to our roots. So it is something that is near and dear to our hearts. But at the end of the day, in the building trades, not our sister CIO side, in the building trades, notwithstanding production and fabrication shops, where there might be a little different mix there, bottom up cannot get you to your end goal. The NLRB numbers, the only numbers I had to use and cite. But you had to do a lot of homework to cite those numbers properly. Since 73 till now, we won 1 in 7 of the elections, counting all of them. Not the ones we want to count. All of them. So if you win 1 in 7, every veteran organizer will tell you getting that first contract is very difficult. It's north of 1 in 7, but there's no hard numbers. And then there's a third number. So frame this in your mind. If we win 1 in 7 and we get the first contract, after you get that first contract, 45% of the time, 1 year later, you're up for decertification. That is the NLRB numbers. So the number crunchers could figure that out. That's about 10% of the market share, knowing the back number and the front number. So we've been using a strategy, bottom up, to take us to raising market share when it fundamentally cannot do it. So it begs the question, why? at the end of the day, Labor Combat looks at bottom up strictly as a tool to be used in a very specific form, in a very specific place, by mostly veteran organizers, not for a new organizer who just runs out all over the marketplace and has people sign cards and is fishing essentially. So bottom up fails the test of strategy. Top down sounds wonderful in a perfect world. It is go to the end users and tell them that we've changed. Tell them that we are business friendly. Tell them that we have a value added product of several components of that value added product. However, I'm not going to use but, however, the numbers are the numbers. You really start to see top down coming back in the mid-90s and being used more and more. And from mid-90s to 2002, the market share continues to drop. And in 2002, we have a gentleman that writes a book to try and teach us how to do it better, how to make the case even better, how to be more business friendly, how to talk the talk and walk the walk. However, the numbers are the numbers, brothers and sisters, and they're easily measured. And from 2002 to when the economy fell out in the fourth quarter of 2008, we dropped continuously. And from 2008 till now, we continue to drop, down to where the DOL just reported numbers at all-time lows. So at the end of the day, top down and bottom up is two go-to strategies, and the vernacular out there is use them in all these combinations. If there was a combination out there that was successful, we'd know about it by now, and everybody would be copying it, quite frankly. So at the end of the day, they can't get you to where you need to go. So what's even worse is I've gone to 9 anti-union seminars now. And in those seminars and workshops, they're actually teaching, have for several years now, to bring the union in, to keep your enemies close. That's a page from a playbook that we used to practice. Where do you hold your enemies? Close. When there's a new organizer, there's a new agent, there's a new business manager, new general president, new bill and trades president, you get the drift. Let them come in, let's talk to them, let's throw them a bone once in a while to use our vernacular. If it's a dense union market, which they're few and far between now, we'll keep stringing them along. They get all their information, brothers and sisters, from us. And the ironies there are unbelievable. It's no different than a Special Forces Navy SEAL team being out there and popping up on the battlefield, constantly saying, here I am, and wonder why they get shot. Well, they don't do that. At the end of the day, Labor Combat was brought forward to take a look again at markets in a critical sense, in an area of credit, in an area of clients, in an area of social footprint. Those are the areas that every contractor is vulnerable in, especially the open shop contractors. And we have never really looked at them in that light. All of them have vulnerabilities at some point in time. It's just a matter of bringing that pressure to bear when you need it. And Labor Combat, we do your own market research. We don't talk about theories. We do about a 30 to 50% statistical sample. It's hundreds, if not thousands, of contractors, from residential, if you serve the residential market, all the way up to food chain. And you get to see and touch and feel real live contractors, most of which some of the guys recognize quite readily, and start to look at ownership interests, start to look at locations, start to look at any number of factors, and it's readily available. The days of stick building research now are over. With the way the internet works and the way technology works, this stuff is readily available. We have a couple vendors that really put together some pretty dynamite Excel spreadsheets in which we can start to form or create a template so that when the organizers, the agents go back, they can do a real life sample. But we go way past just knowing the markets and the players. We start to figure out our compression zone. Compression zone is a big word called asymmetrical organizing. Back in the day, 20, 30 years ago, labor might have been big enough to go force on force with big management. We aren't that big anymore. We have to be better trained. We have to be more pinpoint precise in who we're taking on and when we're taking them on. And it doesn't work to be jumping all over the market share map trying to raise market share. We have precious few resources and even fewer people that have a working knowledge of their market to be just jumping all over the map. So what we preach or want the people to consider, our organizers, is wherever your lion's share of your hours are coming in for your contractors and for your funds and your members, those areas are under assault. And we better get real tight in those areas, because we want to send a message to the end users and the general contractors. We're contesting in this area. We're bringing every strategy and tool to the table, and we're contesting here until we firm up and reestablish our presence in this area. You can have multiple compression zones. Some of the clients I've worked with have 2 or 3. Some are in residential, some in maintenance, some in different areas, commercial, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, that compression zone could be tiny, where you have just barely enough contractors left to support a market. Some of them can be under assault. You know the names and players because we develop revenues for all the contractors. We don't use the stated revenues because they're full of bullshit, quite frankly. There's a way to understand revenues. And at the end of the day, we start to figure out once and for all where we need to be on the battlefield, no different than a Navy SEAL team, and be where we're supposed to be, and more importantly, be proactive. The days of reacting to the market needs to stop. When somebody pops their head up with a credit issue, with a social issue, with a client issue, we need to be there to inject our contractors into the mix right then and there and bring social justice. You don't have to do anything silly or stupid. A lot of times the open shop will do the work for you. It's just you gotta let that information get to the right sources in the right time, and the rest will pretty much take care of itself. So this is the backdrop for labor combat. We only have 10 minutes to talk about it, so I wanted to give you a little overview. It's not taught at all by any other the building trades. If you wanted to understand the labor law, there's places for that. We are not NLRB friendly. We want to stay out of there as much as possible, because historically 1 in 7 doesn't bode well for us. So we're not a burn and churn. We are strictly an entity that knows our contractor markets, both ours and the non-union, anti-union, so damn well that we can manipulate the market with our presence, our money, and where we show up and when. So that's a very brief discussion. Tomorrow I will have a discussion with Tech Combat. So if you have an opportunity to have a pen and paper, you're probably going to need it. I won't be able to take the time. Maybe we'll do a webinar here that we have planned pretty shortly to take you through your own market, your own website, and really look at it from a passive versus active standpoint, because that really is a description that we're going to start using. Active would be driving commerce to our contractors. Just simply having an area that says contractors, I'm going to show you in your own website, in your own market, just how many people are looking at that and how you can find that out. So I appreciate the time, brothers and sisters, and I'll be posting the Tech Combat Wednesday and the Combat Construction Thursday. Take care, brothers.